Dear friends, this is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I would very much like to continue on with the 31 days of gangster films and cop films from the year 1970 to the present. And I know that it is a wide expanse of years, I admit that. However, the idea also is that hopefully this can provide us, you and me, with the opportunity to be able to discuss these films or discuss as many films as possible in the context of these particular genres. So I hope to see you throughout the 31 days, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts and comments about these and other films that you feel are worthy of mention in the context of discussing these great genres of cinema. And so in that spirit today, I'd like to focus our attention on a film which is from the year 2013. And this is a very brilliant, taut, very tightly woven and well-organized, well-structured, supremely structured work that has a lot of duality, that has a lot of suspense, that has a lot of gritty and quite intense scenes of confrontation and violence, as well as testing of loyalty, testing the waters, as it were, and also creating revelations about who is one's friend and who is one's enemy in the context of hidden secrets and hidden identities and undercover work and the like. And when we are talking about cops on the one hand, or police officers on the one hand, undercover work on the one hand, and criminal organizations on the other. So this is one of these really brilliantly orchestrated works from 2013, and it is a work which is from the director Park Hoon-jung, and it is starring Lee Jun-jae and Choi Min-sik, and also Hwang Jung-min and others. And please pardon me for my very poor pronunciation of the Korean language, but in Korean it is Shin Se-ge, or in English, New World. New World. I should say that I am talking about this film in the context of the police film genre, because I think we can talk about this because of certain, say, characters that are quite crucial and can be said to be quite primary to the plot. In particular, for example, the Choi Min-sik character, who's the chief Kang character. I think we can discuss this in the context of the police crime thriller. However, I should point out that this film, like many other films, I should say, that have been discussed in the 31 days, or that will be discussed in the coming remaining days of the 31 days, I think we can say that this film could be discussed in the context of the police film genre or the gangster film genre. So it's one of those either-or situations. But again, for purposes of the 31 days and the discussion, please let me discuss it in the police film genre, although, again, I acknowledge that it could also be, and perhaps very comfortably, fit in the gangster film genre as well. And I make that type of duality as a caveat because, indeed, that's how the plot is set up. We have the focusing in on a particular organization, criminal organization in Korea. And at the moment, or when we first meet or first are privy to the details at the start of the film, we understand that there is a issue or dilemma or scenario or situation involving the successor. Who will be next in line? Who will who will quote unquote inherit the top position? And for that purpose, there are a number of differing rivals within the organization, the criminal organization, that are vying for this top spot. And so that's why we have, in this context, a film that is safely, or can be said to be, a film about gangsters, about criminals, about the criminal organization, and also the very intense rivalries that occur between and among these various factions that emerge. And in this particular situation that arises, we have the emergence of characters that we can learn to maybe associate with and sympathize, or at least get a sense of who's who. And one of those characters is the Hwang Jung-min character, who is Jung, and we realize that his character in this criminal organization society, excuse me, is vying for the top position. He is trying to assert his authority, assert his presence, and trying to use his connections and positionings in order to defeat any rivals along the way. But also, too, the rivals feel the same way about him. So therein lies the eruption of potential violence, conflict, and confrontation within the ranks of this criminal organization. And we follow this character of Jung throughout this, or he's one of the characters, as I say, that we follow throughout this really extremely intricate and quite finely tuned set of, say, plot connections and network connections and character connections, again, set against the dynamic of this really sprawling epic of a criminal empire being depicted in the context of a modern day Korea. So that's one aspect, which is, I think, really, really quite fascinating and very tense and exciting, and quite visually quite exhilarating, and very, very almost pulse pounding in a lot of ways indeed. So that's one aspect. However, that is not all, because enveloped into this are various, say, connections and situations involving the character played by Lee Jung-jae and Jasung, and Lee Jasung, and also his connections with his family, and also his background, and also his various, say, motives and motivations, and also his testing of loyalty. And therein lies a situation involving the police and the investigation, and how the police, led by this Choi Min-sik character, Kang, is trying to bring down this organization through any means at their disposal. And one of those means is, well, direct confrontation. Another such means is undercover infiltration of the organization by undercover police officers. So we have the idea of police officers who have infiltrated the organization, and no one, their identities, their true identities, are secret, except perhaps to some people, very select few people, and also us, the viewer. And therein lies a sense of tension. Will these undercover police that have infiltrated the organization, will they be caught out? What happens? How will they be able to transfer the key information as part of the police investigation, etc., to the chief in question? Will they succeed? Will they fail? And also, in that, we have the testing of loyalties, as I've mentioned, the testing of these loyalty waters, because we see that in terms of a moral compass, and in terms of a type of inscrutability factor, perhaps our sympathies do not always go with the law enforcement characters. In other words, we see the chief, we see the Choi Min-sik character, and we can begin to question his actions, and we can begin to question his motivations, and we begin to wonder who is really the quote-unquote hero, who is really the quote-unquote villain of the piece, and perhaps there is more gray area that emerges between the two sides than meets the eye. So it's not always clear-cut who is the hero of the piece, who is the villain of the piece. Maybe those that we think are quite are set up in terms of the context of this genre or genres. Maybe we think that characters who are set up that are set up in a way that we as viewers might expect would become villains. Maybe the opposite is true. They become quite heroic. Maybe the other way is possible. Maybe characters that we see set up initially that are meant to be heroic, or we have the expectation of being heroic, end up becoming perhaps more villainous or more amoral or more immoral than we might have otherwise have thought at the start of the film. And so this gray area, this blending of sides, who's who, what's what, who's right, who's wrong, and is there even a right and a wrong? Is there a gray area? This becomes one of the great ways in which this film captures that moral morass, that quicksand, that gray area where a character that is traversing, say, both sides or either side, When they try to cross or trek, they might sink because they are swept up in the entire weight of the situation. And my goodness, when the fireworks erupt, my goodness, do they erupt? They erupt and then some. And therein lies a lot of the kinetic energy of the film. Therein lies the complexity, the human connections of the film that are tested and that also maybe might cause feelings of repulsion and anger. And we as viewers might begin to question who it is we are meant to support and root for, who it is we are meant to say feel repulsed by, and maybe those sides are becoming more blurred and blurred and blurred as we go along. And that is a perfect way to approach the film, in my view, because that goes along so well with the direct nature of the plot and also the metaphorical aspects of that direct nature of the plot, because it is about sides. It is about picking one side over the other. It is about hidden agendas. It is about undercover work. It is about the pressures and the psychological strains of being undercover for so long. How long can one stand before one begins to crack? And one begins to crack. What are the reasons for those cracks? Is it because of the criminal element that these undercover police officers are engaged with on a day-to-day basis, being undercover? Or is it the police element, as expressed by Chief Kang and others? Is it this police element in terms of undue pressure from the quote-unquote law enforcement side that are creating these cracks? And amongst all that, where are the loyalties going to go at the end? Are we going to go with the quote unquote traditional rules of law and order versus chaos and crime, or is the other way quite possible? All these questions and more are emerging while we have the backdrop of this crime saga, this police saga. There are also aspects of the undercover process. So there's an element of the police procedural. There's also perhaps a hint at the element of, say, police. Maybe corruption might be a term that may or may not be apropos for these particular plot situations. But for lack of a better phrase, the questioning of the morals of those who are on the side of law enforcement versus the questioning of the morals of those who are on the other side, the side of crime and organized crime and the like. Also set against the backdrop of the modern day Korea and all the sort of promise and economy, as well as the attempts at trying to establish a sense of legal based order, etc., while at the same time providing this stylish, ultra stylish crime thriller to the max that is very cool, very filled with a lot of flourish and cinematic detail, as well as having a sense of purpose and meaning, and a really gritty and understandable and really quite poignant human story or set of human stories at the center. It's about family, it's about honor, it's about loyalty, it's about betrayal, and it's about confrontation and conflict, and what will be the result of all of those plot themes and threads when we get to the final conclusion scenes of this film. You've got to watch it to the very end if you haven't seen it yet. This is exciting stuff indeed. So this is the film New World. I should say too that the performances I think are really quite splendid. I mentioned Hua Jung-ming playing this particular character in the organized criminal side. I mean, his character has this flashy nature to it, and the way that it's performed, it's very flashy. It's very almost quite volatile. But we realize that just like with many other aspects of this film, there are multiple sides to his character, thus making for such fascinating and oftentimes quite revealing and pleasantly surprising turns of character development and character arc with his character. The same is true for the Lee Jun-jae character, the Jae-sung character, who has so much at stake in terms of loyalty being tested, sides, the psychological pressures, etc. This is one of the great things. He's able so much to show the as I say, pressure cooker situation that he finds himself in. And then I mentioned Choi Min-sik, the chief character, how he seems to be trying to proceed with this investigation aspect from the law enforcement side on the one hand, but his moral scruples become highly questionable. Highly questionable indeed. So there is a type of duality and then some for each of these characters and the others when we examine and when we experience their character arcs, again, set against the backdrop of this really a high-octane crime thriller saga, which is so packed with plot details and twists and the like. This is really exciting stuff indeed. Once again, New World from 2013. It could have been described or discussed in the gangster film genre, I know, but today let us discuss it in the context of the police film genre. I hope you can understand. Maybe those who've seen the film, you'll know what I mean when I say I too have this duality feeling, much like many aspects of the film. So maybe that's apropos for purposes of discussion. But in any event, my friends, this is the film from 2013, and it is New World. Okay, my dear friends, so that's it for now. And so until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well. And please keep on watching a lot of great, great movies. Thank you so much, as always, for your time. I very, very much appreciate it. Stay strong, stay safe, and cheers.